Good morning. I'm going to make a little comment about catalytic converters, using my own car as an example. So let's turn it on. And let it boot up. As you can see, I reset the fuel economy counter just over 5 miles ago, and it put in a stunning performance, 94.3 miles to the gallon. That's the amount of petrol it used to get me the 4.5 miles. And as you can see, the fuel economy is now ticking down. The reason why is that the engine is cut in, even though it's a hybrid car. Excuse me. What it's actually doing is it's warming up the catalytic converter. So we'll watch the mileage tick down. It's now at 87, 85. Excuse me. And see that car there? That's the exact same engine and transmission as this. It's a Toyota Auris. It is literally the hatchback version of this car here, the Prius. And even got the same wheels. Now the engine isn't just running to warm up. What it's actually doing is it's running very rich. In effect, what basically chucking petrol down the exhaust to warm up the catalytic converter. Now, as one engineer described it, flames roaring down the exhaust pipe. Excuse me, cough cough. I'm going to wait for it to go through its warm-up sequence. And we're now down to 75, 73.2 miles per gallon. So it's knocked it back from 90 something to 70 something, just with the amount of fuel it's wasting to heat up the converter on the underside of the car. Now, yeah, down into the 60s now. Excuse me. And see, we're not moving. So basically, we're just burning petrol to heat up the converter, and that's it. Catalytic converters were invented to allow old, inefficient, polluting technology to carry on being old and inefficient, but by cleaning up some of the NOx emissions. Because the effect there, we're down to 65.7 miles per gallon, and the engine's cut out. No, we started in the 90s. So that implies that if it's knocked it down by 30% over from 5 miles, that implies it's used roughly the same amount of petrol that it used to go 2 miles just to warm the converter up. It's a cold and windy day today, and guess what? The converter is going to be cooling straight down again. Right, I'm not catalytic converters are a ridiculous invention that uses precious resources, rhodium stuff that we need to be saving for things like flat screen televisions, in order to increase the consumption of precious resources, oil, in order to reduce certain limited emissions at the expense of increased CO2. Because the existential threat to humanity in all life presented by CO2 was suppressed, the fact that it increased production of CO2 predominantly didn't seem like a bad idea. Although I must admit, to me as a younger person, when catalytic converters came in, I thought it was an incredibly stupid idea. I think the Ford Motor Company's idea is a much better one at the time. They wanted to develop lean burn engine technology. And it's still in electric mode. you see that the bar, there's a little divider on the bar, and as long as I'm below that divider, it'll stay in electric mode. And I'm now trundling through Dorchester and Thames. We are now about to pass the hairdressers. I've wedged the phone up so I'm hands-free. So I've now passed the hairdressers, and if I carry on a little bit further, I end up at the Co-op, which is just here. We're just about to go past it now. So what happens, my mother gets in her car, she starts it up, she wastes 2.5 miles worth of petrol just to warm the converter up, and then she trundles to the shop in electric mode. Even a conventional car with a normal old-fashioned car with an engine that ran all the time, she would still be using more fuel to warm up the catalytic converter than she would be using to go to the shops or the hairdressers, which is basically the limit of her commute, because she's in her 80s. If she was younger, she'd walk, but she can't, so uses the car. There are countless numbers of cars doing short journeys, guzzling more fuel to heat their catalytic converters up than they actually use otherwise to propel the car. And that's not just hybrids, that's all cars. Catalytic converters reduce certain types of emissions when the engines are burning inefficiently, i.e. when they're idling or when they're running absolutely flat out. In a hybrid car, of course, light engine load running doesn't happen because I am still in electric mode. I've pulled out of my drive, I've driven all the way around Dorchester and Thames. I'm actually driving back down the high street, having gone around the housing estate, because basically my commute to work is the other end. We went in the opposite direction. Oh, there's a car coming here and another one squeezing out there, right? I'm pulling out of that loop I did to get round, and I'm now back on the high street and I'm picking up speed, and I'm still in electric mode. So I'm nearly back at where we started. I'm about 100 yards away from where I set off. Right, the engine's cut in. You can see I've gone past the divider, the engine's cut in. As the batteries run down, it becomes more and more sensitive to throttle, and that's how it balances the budget, the electricity budget. I'm now accelerating down the Abingdon Road. Meanwhile, my fuel consumption has gone up to 72 miles per gallon because we covered a load of mileage, but didn't use the engine. Excuse me. However, fuel consumption is now on its way back down because the engine's cut in. What we're seeing here is a spectacular demonstration of how much petrol catalytic converters waste. I'll put the cruise control on, now trundling down the Abingdon Road at 30 miles an hour. And I just demonstrate something. I'll get a bit of speed up. This gauge cruise control. Then I'll put my foot on the brake gently, and you'll see the indicator goes into that sidebar that's labelled CHG. That stands for charge. That's me charging the battery up as I slow down. That's how these things work. Excuse me. I'm now just slowing down for the junction. So there you have it. A really quite spectacular demonstration of the appalling waste and inefficiency of catalytic converters. You see, hybrid cars hardly ever use their catalytic converters because when the engine would normally be idling, it's switched off. And of course, when you really floor it, it uses the battery for extra boost, and which is what happens if I push into that other sidebar at the other end of the graph like that. And then I'm just going to pull into a lay-by here, because at the moment the phone is propped up on the dashboard. It's hands-free because I'm driving. Let me pull into this lay-by here. See, I'm charging up again as I slow down. There. parking brake on. There, and the engine's dropped out. So there we have it. And we're now at the Bairnsfield roundabout. So, basically catalytic converters are now obsolete. The lean burn technology that Ford were talking about is now commonplace. But you really got to wonder if the only people who are benefiting from catalytic converters are the suppliers of precious metals, the thieves who steal them from the bottom of people's cars, and of course the oil companies, who wouldn't surprise me if their formidable lobbying power is one of the reasons why these wretched things were ever installed in the first place. After all, it's the only thing that explains the idea of a device designed to reduce emissions that actually increases emissions. Go figure. Anyway, I'll before I start to get too indignant and steamed up, I'll end the video here so I can carry on my journey to work.